bring this forward. I had conversations with uh, the Grand Sheik of then Temple 52, Brother Kenneth Carter Bey, let him know all of these things, sent him the information. He also knew about the sexual harassment charges or allegations because he too had an event at his temple where one of his sisters of his temple were propositioned by Braswell Bay to come visit him on their own to Chicago, to which she informed Brother Carter Bey, who was the then former Grand Sheik. I mean, he's the former Grand Sheik of Temple 52 under Braswell Bay. And we're going to get to the happenings that has occurred over the past year. When we brought this forward to them, they declined to take any action. We showed all of the things that happened. We showed this body of evidence. And he acknowledged to me that we were right in our assessment that it was wrong. All of that was wrong, right? But he wouldn't outwardly take any action. There was one outward action that he did take. There was one action that he did take, and that was to come on to our group, the official Facebook group for the Moorish Science Temple of America, January 13th, 2021. First time he ever posted in that group since he was a member of 2008, 2009. His first post, this is what he posted. I'm going to read his words so that everybody can see this. I'm not making this up. These are his words. This is what he stated at the insistence of Braswell Bay to speak out against this information that we brought forth to inform the grand body of the improprieties of that Supreme Council. Okay. Everybody can see this. Okay, Carter Bey, January 13th, 2021. This was after we put the information out in the Facebook group, and I made the announcement late 2020 that we were going to be putting the microscope on ourselves the same way that we had done other bodies of Moors, that it was time for us to have that introspection, right? And that self-approbation. So once we put that information out about the improprieties of the Supreme Council and the grand body officials who support them, and those improprieties were the abandonment of the faith by becoming appointed as directors of a Christian church, being charged to further and preserve the cause of that Christian church. That constituted an act of the abandonment of the faith of Islam and the religion of Islamism as brought by Prophet Drew Ali. Failure to act in immoral conduct, right? These were allowing members of the Moorish Science Temple of America to place themselves in danger by occupying a building that was under permanent injunction, collecting money across state lines, representing a what is that called? Inurement, right? Collecting money across state lines and embezzling money and finance from members of the Moorish Science Temple of America and funneling that money to New Galilee Missionary Baptist Church to repair a building that was owned by New Galilee Missionary Baptist Church. We let those things be known in addition to the sexual harassment. Brother Easter, you had something you want to say?
I believe it's called private annulment.
Private annulment. Okay.
Private annulment.
So you can look that up, private annulment, and you'll see what that, if somebody can bring that up and raise your hand when you have it, we can have that read so everybody can know what that private annulment means. But this is what Brother Braswell Bay influenced Brother Kenneth Carter Bey to state, even after he told me in many conversations in late 2020 that we were correct and that we should wait, right? So he told me, hey, after we had so many conversations about it, he said, you should wait because I got Braswell Bay to agree with what we wanted. He agreed to name an assistant Grand Sheik and to set members of the Supreme Council in April of 2021 at the leadership conference. He's going to do it. So just wait until that person is appointed, and then that person can bring those charges forward, and then Braswell Bay can be removed, and that assistant Grand Sheik will then be become the new Supreme Grand Sheik of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and it won't cause a split in the grand body because he feared that the grand body would be split by the actions that we were taking if he and others signed on to it. Everybody's up to speed with that right now?
That's fine.
Everybody understands what I'm saying?
Years long.
So they acknowledged it. Sister Taylor Ill, did you had a statement you want to make real briefly?
Yes, I just had the definition for private enormement.
Okay, go ahead and read it real quick, sister.
Nolo.com says lawyers have coined the confusing term private enormement to describe when a nonprofit's money or other assets are devoted to private uses by insiders instead of the charitable purposes they were intended for. And then it gives a few examples. Are you?
Islam. Thank you for reading that, sister. Okay, so that goes for the same thing for a religious corporation. When you use the money from the religious corporation for other private ventures that those in the religious corporation don't know about, that's private enormement. You're benefiting from for yourself. Okay. And for us within the Moorish Science Temple of America, that violates the Prophet's general laws because that becomes embezzlement, right? And the Prophet said that all properties must be purchased in the name Moorish Science Temple of America, Finance, or Prophet Noble Drew Ali. There's no way around that. So now getting back to this line of thought. When I brought this to Brother Kenneth Carter Bey, and he very much, again, expressed his understanding and agreement that this was all totally wrong. Okay. And he set about trying to rectify it in his way that would benefit him, which means that what? When he made his statement about I got Braswell Bey to agree to appoint an assistant grand sheik. He was doing this under the aspect and the psychological imprint of king ambition, right? It was his ambition to receive that position of assistant grand sheik. And then he, as assistant grand sheik, could take this information and bring charges against Braswell Bey and thereby have Braswell Bey removed. And then he would step in as the assistant grand sheik of the Moorish Science Temple of America. But it had to be him. Without him, it wasn't a good plan. And he didn't agree with the way that it should have been done. So after we put this information out, Braswell Bey was reportedly shook to his core about this information. And so he called Carter Bey at 2 o'clock in the morning, asking him to make a statement against the actions that we took by releasing this information. And this is what Brother Kenneth Carter Bey wrote. My brothers and sisters in Islam, may the blessings of the great God Allah be upon us all in these trying times. These are the awful days that the Prophet spoke about in the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. We are living in the end of time, the end times, and the fulfilling all the prophecies. That is the reason why we must increase our faithfulness, due to the fact that every evil spirit is moving and they are trying every weak mind to drag out the true foundation that has been laid and cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. Let us make sure that in these trying times, we are fortifying our minds with the teachings of the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, so we will not be susceptible to those evil spirits that's moving around us and in this country. We have to still ourselves more than ever to make sure that every move we make comes from reason. Nothing can be just if it does not proceed from reason. We need to keep our passions and desires in the bounds of righteousness, and let us make sure that in our efforts to be righteous, that we do not commit acts that are unrighteous. I don't normally take to social media because there is an aspect of it that I do not agree with. It is often used as a platform to destroy, malign, and break down our nation. Instead, we need to use it as a tool for the uplifting of fallen humanity as it was done in the past by all you Moors. We have to also understand that it is not lawful to post our grievances on Facebook because it is a part of the World Wide Web, and that means anything that is posted on this platform is sent out to the world, even if they say it's a private group. There are no private groups on the internet. This would be equivalent to using the Moorish Guide news platform to go back and forth with each other and afterwards sending it out throughout the world. Why would the world want to join the Moorish Science Temple of America if we so easily put forth and display our weaknesses and lack of unity? The prophet said, I love my people and I desire for their unity. He also states, where there is unity, there is strength. Together we stand, divided we fall. And if we are divided, then we are bound to fall. Keep that in mind, Moors. My support for the Supreme Grand Sheikh of the Moorish Science Temple of America is Quranic, chapter 27, page 42, verse 4. Be studious of his interests, be diligent in his affairs, and faithful to the trust which he reposeth in thee. He also states the honor of a servant is his fidelity. So I am unapologetic when it comes to the loyalty I have to the Supreme Grand Sheikh and Chairman. It is all of our duty in the Moorish Science Temple of America to be faithful and firm in his cause and stand in defense as a wall of brass, so security and peace bless the dwellings of our people. I'm a father of 16 years and a husband of 27 years, and I cannot imagine if my own brothers and sisters took to social media and accused me of the things our Grand Sheikh is being accused of by the same people of our side of the nation. If you are a father or a mother or a wife or a husband, you will understand what I am saying. It's not just damaging to the Grand Sheikh, but also to his family to treat that station with such irreverence is something that must end or will be setting precedents. I've had the opportunity to sit down with the Supreme Grand Sheikh and go over every single one of these accusations, and my faith in him is stronger than ever. So I would employ all of you to do the same, because if you don't, you will be committing a violation of the Constitution and bylaws. We have two conclaves a year. One is the National Convention, the other is the Leadership Conference. These are platforms that we use in order to put forth our grievances and concerns. That's the law. And as the prophet, I love you, brothers and sisters, and I just want our unity. We can do better than this. Let's not become the very people that we have fought against for many years. And I'm sure that some of you may have something to say about this post, but it's okay. Take this in the spirit that it is given. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Peace and love. Any comments or insights on this?
Ms.
Go ahead, Brother Fuller Bay.
I would just like to state that in a meeting held at More Science Temple America Temple 10, it was announced that Carter Bey, Hughesville, and Epsil are next in line to take over the movement from Braswell Bay. This is right before all the documents was brought forth. So this scheme has been working within the minds of these brothers for quite some time. This is nothing more than a political stunt to get in good graces and get further into the pocket of Braswell Bay as King Ambition to try to take over the movement. This is another scheme that has been working within these brothers. So I would just like to state that this was announced during Temple 10 in North New Jersey, a meeting held in the Moorish Science Temple of America. And I yield back to the chairman.
Islam. And it's to be noted that some of these statements, remember now, so let's go to one key point here. He said that why would the world want to join the Moorish Science Temple of America if we so easily put forth and display our weaknesses and lack of unity? The prophet said, I love my people and I desire their unity. He also states, where there is unity, there is strength. Together we stand, divided we fall. And if we are divided, then we are bound to fall. One of the things that he kept saying to me, Brother Carter Bey, was that he feared that this information and bringing it forth in the way in which we did would cause a division within the Moorish Science Temple of America. Well, he waited for that leadership conference, and Braswell Bay never appointed an assistant Grand Sheikh. He never set the seats on that council. He waited still. Convention came 2021. Braswell Bay did not make that appointment. I believe it was the following year that he made the appointment for the assistant Grand Sheikh. And I think it was an acting position, I believe. And then that's the year 2022 that it was stated that Carter Bey voiced his disagreement during convention time while Brother Pettis-Eel, who was appointed as the acting assistant Grand Sheik, was teaching Sunday school in one classroom. In the adjacent classroom, you could hear Kenneth Carter Bey loudly disputing with that appointment of Pettis-Eel as the acting assistant Grand Sheik. And he part of his ploy was that he had traveled all over the country with Braswell Bay and spent all this money. And when Braswell Bay was sick, he came up there for a week and helped nurse Braswell Bay back to health. And he did all these things to show his support and loyalty, as he stated, to Braswell Bay, only for Braswell Bay to turn around and say, well, yep, you might have done that, but this is my choice, Pettis-Eel. Right? So all of that he did was for naught. It was for naught. Okay. And so this is one of the things that I told him in late 2020. We cannot wait with the hopes that Braswell Bay would do that. And then this being wintertime, 2020, people are occupying that building with this weak roof structure, and it snows and ices, and that roof collapse with people in there and they get injured or killed. That would be on our conscience then, because we wait until April. We're going to wait until April for Braswell Bay to do what he never did in April. And so it just keeps going on and on. So Carter Bey chose the side that he wanted to stand on. And it wasn't on the side of the prophet to see that the temple and the prophet are right. He says it right here. He stood on the side of Braswell Bay. He said it. These are not my words. My support for the Supreme Grand Sheik of the Moorish Science Temple of America is Quranic. Be studious of his interests, be diligent in his affairs, and faithful to the trust which he reposeth in thee. He also states the honor of a servant is his fidelity. So I am unapologetic when it comes to the loyalty I have to the Supreme Grand Sheik and Chairman. It is all of our duty in the Moorish Science Temple of America to be faithful and firm in his cause and stand in defense as a wall of brass. Now, for me, I don't know about you all, but this is a leader. What this Quran is talking about is a leader who is doing righteous work and is standing under righteousness. And his affairs are guided by the divine principles, not a person who's breaking all the prophet's laws, who has abandoned the faith of Islam. How are you going to be diligent to a person who has abandoned the faith and is taking you down the road of depredation and degradation and incompetency? How can you be studious of his interests when he's not studious of his interests? If he's placing the Moorish Science Temple of America in danger, in ill repute, you're supposed to be diligent in the interests and affairs of the prophet. The prophet said it in the letters that's read in every meeting to ensure that the temple and the prophet are right. We read that in every meeting. Is that correct? It don't say to be sure that this leader is right when they wrong, to make them right. You can't make them right, right? And so we took action. After this, we took action when we put this information out, and myself and E. Steele, Dixon Hill signed on to it. We vacated the offices of that Supreme Council, and all of the grand body officials who support the Supreme Council in the actions that they did. And the actions that they did that we have outlined already. We have a video that where we go specifically into this information. We're just recapping this now because of the happenings that have occurred over the past year and at this past year's conventions, where Kenneth Carter Bey has called for his own convention even after he was removed from all of his stations. When he was removed, they never, to my knowledge, signed any document stating that they vacated the offices of this Supreme Council of Braswell Bay and those who support him. They were summoned by Braswell Bay at the leadership conference in April of 2024, Braswell Bay summoned Carter Bey to turn in the charter for Temple 52, to which he reported that he did. And he stated this to me. Now, whether he turned in the original or he had a copy that he turned in, I'm not sure. But he went there and turned in a charter to Braswell Bay as Braswell Bay summoned him to do. And so by that summoning, he then continued to place himself under subjection to Braswell Bay as his supreme grand sheik until they determined that they were going to break away. Between April and this year's convention, they made the determination that they were going to break away and divide the grand body. That was the determination that they made. Now, this king ambition, which caused this to be, was noticed by those who are with Carter Bey and Temple 52, namely Brother Lightill and Brother Neon Jones Bey. Okay. So last year, before the convention, Brother Neon Jones Bey reached out to me and requested that I speak with Carter Bey. Now I'm going to show you a portion of the text messages from Facebook Messenger where this dialogue happened. All right, I'm going to show you. So I'm going to share my screen. I don't see where Sanders Bey was trying to get in. I thought he was already in.
Who lost connection?
All right, tell him to request again and I'll get him back in. You had a statement you want to make, Brother Estill?
Islam, praises and honors previously given. I think it's of great import to revisit the fact that that Facebook group was recognized by the Grand Body and the Supreme Grand Council at that time, before that Supreme Grand Council was vacated. And in that recognized Grand Body Facebook page, Brother Kenneth Carter Bey never made a post in 13 years until it was strategic for his personal advancement. And like Brother Bruce Bey has been mentioning, King Ambition, Vain Ambition, is written all over it. Very key point to revisit on that notion.
Mm-hmm.
Peace.
And with that, I will state also, in addition, that during that time in late 2020, when we started bringing these things forth and making it known, Carter Bey queried me one day. I was in Houston, and he queried me. He said, well, if someone were to be appointed as the assistant grand sheik, who do you think it would be, or who you think it should be? Who would you name? And I told him I will not name a name until we sat down in council with the grand body to make that appointment. Then I would let my understanding be known. And he got upset with me because I wouldn't name a name, because he wanted to be able to tear that person down if I did name a name, because that's a part of the psychology of Carter Bey, which he has done. He will go to and fro, seeking whom he may destroy in the eyes of other Moors, to show that they don't have the work that he has to have that appointment in that station of Supreme Grand Sheik. And a lot of his criteria is wrong, because a lot of the criteria that he tries to go from, Miliel never had. Miliel never set aside a temple, right? A lot of times when the prophet traveled across the land, it wasn't Miliel that was there. Miliel stayed at temple number one and made sure that temple number one was operating the way that the prophet wanted it to be. So that's not a measure of who will be appointed as an assistant grand sheik or grand sheik in accordance with Act 1 or supreme grand sheik, right? Go ahead, Brother Estill, you had a statement?
Islam. It's also very pertinent to give attention to the fact that Carter Bey agreed with what we did, but not how We did it because it wasn't him spearheading the initiative, right? He likes to rest on the statement, wise sentences are uttered in due season. Right? Truth is never out of season.
Mm-hmm.
Truth is never out of season, and there's no right way to do wrong. And for some reason, how he's moving is as if there is a right way to do wrong, and he's trying to speak to our efforts as if there was a wrong way to do right. When the first Supreme Grand Sheik of the Moorish Science of America said that when the one is right, the one is the majority. Peace.
Peace. And that's one of the key points that's on the agenda, right? Is the aspect of the mindset of why sentences are uttered in due season, right? Uh, as you stated, Brother Easteel, the prophet said to see that the temple and the prophet are right. He never said when the season arises for you to see that the temple and the prophet are right. He never said there was a season for that. That is at all times to live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, right? And to stand on truth, right? He said that we should not be ashamed of truth, right? The only person who's ashamed of truth is the one who conceals it. And if truth slapped you in the face, you wouldn't even be offended, right? So, in that aspect, the misapplication of the teaching of why sentences are uttered in due season, no, there's all time, always the time to uphold the prophet and the law and to see that the temple and the prophet are right. Or else you render yourself in the path of that destruction. And that's what Carter Bey did by not holding to what he said he knew to be true as far as what we presented and attempting to hold out for a station to be appointed to himself. He became subject to the nature of Braswell Bey, and Braswell Bey handled him according to that nature. He mistreated and abused Carter Bey and embarrassed Carter Bey. At convention of 2023, when Carter Bey came and was not recognized, and others had to recognize Carter Bey even to give him a voice to speak at that convention because he had been stripped of power last year. All authority for operating Temple 52 was put into the hands of what they called the regional Grand Governor, William Graham Bey, and Sister Barbara Graham Bey. They were in charge of Temple 52's affairs from 2022 leading up to this year. Lydell told me it was a shame the way that Carter Bey got handled by Braswell Bey. It was an embarrassment. It was a disappointment because of the fact that there was a failure to act on his part when it was first brought to him. And that's why Light Eel and Neon Jones Bey reached out to me last year. My wife and I went to Washington, D.C. in early 2023. I went by the temple to see if I can get some, Temple 52, to see if I can get some Prophet's tea. Light Eel was there, and he told me, we got some things cooking, brother. You need to get in touch with Carter Bey. I can't tell you right now, but we got some things going on. So these things were working for a while since that 2022, when that appointment of Assistant Grand Sheik was made. The ball started rolling for Carter Bey to say, hey, this ain't right. I'm not going to stand for this. I should be having that station, right? Last year before convention, Neon Jones Bey reached out to me. This is the conversation that we had on Facebook Messenger. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Neon Jones Bey, September 3rd, 2023, 7 a.m. Islam Moabite, how have you been? Islam, brother man, doing good. How are you and your family? They are doing great. And yours. Everyone is moving positively. All my children in Texas now. Oh, okay, good. Is that where you are as well? Yes, been in Texas since the end of 2019. How are you liking it? What part you in? Austin, loving it, right? Awesome. Glad things are going well. Doing the same kind of work? Yes, transportation. Then he gets down to the where he reached out to me. I agree. Have you spoken with Carter Bey? I said, not since late 2019. How is he in the temple doing? I've called him a few times and no answer. He is good. The temple is growing. And I didn't know it's been that long. I said, yes, almost 4 years. He says, dang. I said, it's to be expected, though. I saw Light Ear early last year, and he said to call Carter Bey as he has something cooking with Braswell Bay. I called him, but no answer. He said, yeah, that brother is a piece of work. I'm talking about the Supreme Grand Sheik. I told him when one accepts another's wrongdoing, what comes with it must be borne along with the responsibility of the wrong done. When the laws of the prophet are broken, a speedy reparation must be made. That not being done, all who continue under the wrong buy into, invest in the wrongdoer. He says, I agree. I said, anything done against the prophet's law, anybody of Sheik or Sheikas can seek to correct. He said, I definitely believe he needs to be removed. He is an enemy to this movement. He is too complacent. I told him they tried to bribe me with a council seat, supreme historian, to quiet me. I said, yes, and the proof is he's been an enemy. Proof had to be obtained, and it was. He said, I believe you should reach out to Carter Bay again. I said, Braswell Bay is incompetent and a wannabe hustler. He does everything in a niggardly way. I said, why do you say reach out to him? He said, I don't want to divulge anything, but just see if he will accept your call. You were and are friends despite what may have transpired. I say, yes, Allah is most forgiving. That's my brother. And I told him then he should have remained quiet while I did that work. He had his own ambition. The table was being set. It still is because the transgressions are still ongoing. I said, I will call him. And I tried to call him several times that day, and I did reach out to him. And we touched base, and that's when we started talking about what they were going to do when they arrived at the convention last year, 2023. I told him that's not going to work. It's not going to work with Braswell Bay. You know, everybody who has tried to utilize the Supreme Council that Braswell Bay sits on to right the wrongs of Braswell Bay has been ran out of the movement and been trampled over because they didn't understand the law that the Moorish Science Temple of America was established under, the Religious Corporation Act, and the ability to vacate offices by trustees. Go ahead, Dixon. You want to say something? You're muted, brother. Can't hear you. Still can't hear you. Can anybody else hear me, brother Dixon Hill? Anyone? Brother Fuller Bay, give me a mic check.
Yeah,
Okay, I
yeah.
can hear I can hear you. You can hear Dixon Hill?
No.
Can't hear you. Okay, Blackman Bay says he can't hear you either, brother Dixon Hill. Something going on with your mic. All right. So when we're looking at this, this is we listen. What we did and what we brought forth was not a Brewington Bay issue specifically or particularly. All right. It wasn't an East Ill thing. It wasn't a Dixon Hill or a Fuller Bay thing. It was a temple thing, meaning the entire membership and corporation of the Moorish Science Temple of America. This was the issue we brought forth of the embezzling, the failure to act, the abandonment of the faith. That affects all of us, right? What Carter Bay brought forth in the series of problems that he brought forth was only dealing with the lack of him being appointed to be the assistant grand sheik. That's when he started having all these problems with Braswell Bay and letting it be known because he felt that was his time to act now. It was like he had a window of opportunity and he was trying to seize that window. And he saw that by this brother, Pettis Ill, a younger brother than him, being appointed as assistant grand sheik and being next in line to be the supreme grand sheik, he felt like his opportunity had closed off. So then he started taking on lines of action that would undo that work that Braswell Bay did by appointing him, Pettis Ill, as assistant grand sheik, so that he can then be and have it brought before the table of who the assistant grand sheik should be and enforce an appointment. And so now he done one better than that. If you just look at it from an outside thing, he's influenced those who would walk with him, Brother Hughes Ill, Brother Epps Ill, Brother Tucker Ill, Brother Neon Jones Bay, and other members of Temple 52, to have their own convention in Chicago this past year, where they appointed him as their Supreme Grand Sheik over them. So he said, forget it. I'm not going to work through the Moorish Science of America. I'm going to do what? I'm going to cause a divide. I'm going to cause a whole divide. Even though in his missive, he said what? We should be for unity. Now, we, in the work that we did, we have never stated that we are a different grand body. We never held elections to say we're going to appoint one of us as Supreme Grand Sheik and we're going to have this council over here, over there. We have never done that because that wasn't our purpose. We've always stated we are still members of the grand body. We want to work to give an understanding of what's happened so that we can move as one to correct the wrongs and the ills, remove Braswell Bay and that council and all of those who want to stay with him. That's what they do. And then we can move forward as grand body and members of the Moorish Science Club of America together. But that takes multiple steps of action that a lot of people are not ready for, even still. Because the prophet said, I need finance and I need it badly. It takes finance to shove aside the discord, right? Everybody's aware of that, right? The finance. It takes finance to correct the ills of the Moorish Science Club of America at that level by the body. Go ahead, Brother Dixon Hill.
Islam, can you hear me now?
Can hear you.
Islam, gratitude. Praise the Lord and honors to his holy and divine prophet. Honors to the first Supreme Grand Sheik and chairman and all honors previously given. I wanted to camelback off of one of the great points you just made about Braswell Bay and the way just basically how he's picked certain people. Also, as an officer and a longtime member of Temple Number One, under Braswell Bay, I can also testify that on this call, that he's what I know now, and understanding what has come forward and what has come out in the open, that he strategically did not teach certain things. He did not make known things like the generals, supreme laws. Only time he read it was once a year, and that was at the convention, and that was at the end of the convention. And if you asked for a copy of them, he was very reluctant to give it out, and only to people those who were his favorites. And there was a lot of ostracizing by him to certain people who asked questions, who pointed out the prophet's law. Asked, why are we doing things this way when the prophet states this? As you stated, a lot of those members that had questions or, raised a little bit too much curiosity got, pushed to raise out the movement, which to a great degree, I feel he tried to push me out of the movement, but he couldn't. Once I got into this movement and realized it was about the prophet, it was about this great work and this true and divine movement, I had already decided I wasn't going anywhere. As he has personally ostracized myself on many occasions. And honestly, as an officer, and looking at the prophet's law, that most of the things he did once he transgressed, he abandoned the faith of Islam, are null and void. The minute he decided to do things his way and not honor what the prophet has left us, most of those things are null and void. The prophet has left us a fail-proof system. All we got to do is follow it. Speaking on Carter Bey, I've watched a lot of his movement over the years and how he was, he cherry-picked who he associated with. He cherry-picked who he would communicate with during the year and especially right before convention. So a lot of these things that have come out in the open, come to the light, I'm not shocked because I've seen a lot of these things. I've asked a lot of questions about these specific things that we're dealing with now. When this first came to light, Brother Braswell Bay called me explaining himself. And I'm thinking, why is he calling me? Explaining himself to me, not the prophet. I'm just, a brother here to help continue this movement and continue this work. But it became very evident the more we uncovered, the more that was moved from behind the veil. So, and as Brother Brendan Bey has stated before, so many of those that choose to continue to follow Braswell Bey in his wrongness do understand that you're going against the great God of Allah. It's not about us, as the brother stated. We're here following this true and divine prophet to a destination that's not unknown. Like the prophet says, if you don't study these lessons and make them a part of every part, you are an embezzler. It's not just about money. It's not about money. You should love your people enough to want to follow this prophet and follow this divine plan so that we can help uplift our people. We should be tired of seeing what our people go through, knowing that we have the solution, not solutions, not with an S, that the Prophet Noble Drew has given us the true and divine solution to everything that, all the ills that are plaguing our people. So for me, it just behooves me that I would say to a certain degree that certain ones would continue to stand behind wrongness. But the more I'm understanding the prophet's lessons, I see why. When the prophet said, and every evil spirit is moving, trying to drag out the true foundation that has been laid, not being laid. So for me, you have to really ask yourself, who and what are you following? Are you following Allah and his true and divine prophet? Or are you following the mere ideas of man and are you following someone that's full of ego and just want things their way, rather it be Carter Bey or Braswell Bey?
Well,
And there's no strength.
Let's look at this
It's not.
point that you just raised, right?
It's not.
So the mindset of a person who has that king ambition is they want people, right? Those who follow them to follow them the same way that they followed their leader, right? So if he can say in his writing that he did for the first time in the official Facebook group for the Moorish Science Club of America, that he is standing like a wall of brass behind Braswell Bey, and that he looked at everything that Braswell Bey was accused of, and he found no wrong in him, right? He didn't find any wrong. That's what he wants. He wants blind loyalty. That's what he's going to command. But look at the spirit and nature in which they move. Well, it's borne out in this is the person who they just appointed as their supreme grand governor. Look at their Carter Bey in his group now, because now they're a separate group. This is who he appointed. This is their supreme grand governor. This is him. Everybody know what this is?
Wow.
What is this? Anybody know what this is?
It's an arrest record.
Yes, Lord.
What's the date on it?
July 8th, 2024. Wow.
July 8th, 2024. What was it about?
2 months ago.
Robbery and bodily harm.
Bodily injury and use of force.
Use of force. Wow.
Islamism.
In jail for 3 days behind this. That means there's a court date coming up too, right? Got to be a court date behind this, right? This is the spirit in which they're moving. This is who you say, okay, yeah, you're gonna be our supreme grand governor. You're gonna make sure that all the affairs of all the temples are taken care of by all the heads of the temples in that state. This is the example that you're bringing forth for the people that that you have gotten to follow you, right? We don't make this stuff up, right? We're just sent this information or given this information, right? So this is why we stated in 2021, we take our time. We're not going to run out there and start doing this or that. No, we wait on Allah. And when Allah tells us to move, we're going to move. Allah says, hey, well, I'll get back to you on it. Guess what? We're going to wait for those wise sentences then. That's when we have to wait. We have to wait for the season, right? But when it comes to upholding this law and letting it be known before the members of the Moorish Sons Temple of America, that's always in effect to protect the temple and the prophet. That's always in effect. Okay. Now, how we do it, they might not have agreed with. And that was the problem. They didn't agree with how we did it.